I got a TV so we could have a movie night together. The tape I ordered was really, really good. I had to jump through a whole lot of hoops to get it. It's really hard to find those kinds of things online, and I don't think the guy selling it thought I was really interested in buying. It took me so long to convince him to sell it to me, but I finally got it, and it came a few weeks later. I thought they would be happy to have something to watch, but when the action started, they refused to watch it, after all my hard work of getting it. It's okay though, because that meant they had to hide their face against me. They looked so pretty when they died. When I was done, I realized they were asleep on my shoulder. They looked so cute, I couldn't help myself. I had to be super careful to be gentle and not wake them up. It was like a little game. And they were so cute sleeping that I didn't want to disturb the scene. Someone dropped a lighter down the grate today, and it wound up in my hands. The flame was so pretty. I knew what I had to do, of course. I put my shirt in their mouth so they wouldn't scream so loud. I thought it'd be interesting to hear it that way. Their eyes were begging me to stop, but I couldn't do something like that. I wish I had some cigarettes because holding the tip of those against someone is a lot more fun, but the lighter did its job. Their skin went pink first. They screamed out against the cloth in their mouth. It didn't muffle much, but it sounded pretty anyways. They kicked their feet and tried to get away, but the chains held up nice. It reminded me of a brand, like the ones that farmers put on their cattle. In a way, it's not too far off. They're just livestock in another way. I only pulled the lighter away when it started to smell. The wrist is a lot prettier now. It makes me smile every time I see it. Another mark that shows they're mine. All mine. My arms have so many scars. Some of them were drawn in intricate patterns like hearts and stars. One of them was a special name. Most, though, were just lines. They were pretty too. Again today. They were just the usual lines, but they looked nice. I got deeper than I normally got. I went to them and held up my wrist to their face. We stared at each other for a minute. They didn't get that I wanted them to taste it. Instead, for the first time, they looked at me with something other than fear. I'm not sure what it was. Their eyes were soft. I didn't like it. I grabbed their arm and slashed across it with a razor. They cried out, betrayed and shocked, tears immediately flowing down their face. I leaned in close, grabbed them by the chin, and smiled. "Now you look more like me," I told them. And then I shoved my bloody wrist in their mouth. "Drink up." I was playing around with them again today, waving a knife around, threatening them a little, just trying to get them all thrashy and upset. For some reason, their eyes caught my attention. The way they were looking at me was so desperate. My heart fluttered a little. I never noticed how insanely pretty their eyes were. I got down on my knees in front of them and stared, imagining what it would look like if I gouged them out and preserved them in a little jar. They asked what I was doing. I told them the truth. I was looking at their eyes. They nodded a little, almost shyly, and pointed out that mine are pink. They had the courage to ask why. I laughed and told them I'd tell them, but then I'd have to kill them. I think they would have laughed too, if they hadn't known I was serious. They did something stupid today. They tried to escape. Of course it didn't work. I already learned from last time. Their cuffs were far too tight. They had deep purple bruises around their wrists where they tried to yank them out. When I found out, I grabbed them by the hair and slammed them down on the ground. The chains rattled and pulled against their injured wrists, making them cry out. I grabbed a hammer off the wall. They begged and pleaded with me, promised that it was a misunderstanding and they weren't trying to get away. They were lying through their teeth. I know it for a fact. I took the hammer and slammed it down on their ankle. Screams rang out. Tears fell down their cheeks. I didn't care. I didn't stop. I hit them, again and again and again. Once I knew there was no way they'd be able to walk without my help, I let them go, leaving them a sobbing mess on the ground. They shouldn't have tested me again. Stupid fucking mutt. I had a bad dream last night. I dreamt that the basement door was open, but something was off about it. I crept up the stairs and into the darkness of the house. He was nowhere to be found. I looked everywhere. The last room I checked was the bedroom. My dread told me not to look, but I did it anyway. He was on the bed, but it wasn't him. It was his body. His decomposing body. His throat was slit. He'd been murdered. That's when the floorboards creaked behind me. Someone else was there, coming from the closet. Before I could react, they snatched me up and covered my mouth so I couldn't scream. I had to stare at his rotting corpse. I woke up drenched in sweat and shaking. I looked over to see them sitting against the wall. That's how they had to sleep while their ankle healed. I crawled over and curled up beside their lap. At least I had my comfort object to calm me down. I fucked up. Like, really fucked up. I was making little nicks on their neck with a surgical blade when I went too deep. But then it didn't stop. It just kept gushing. I froze for a second. They panicked and began pleading for help. I jumped into action. I wrapped their neck as tightly as I could with my shirt and demanded that they hold it there. They took it, but their poor eyes were starting to lull. I clawed through my toolkit and found the things I needed. Sutures, a needle, and a collection bag. While I sewed them up, they groaned in pain, too weak to scream. At the same time, I let my left hand rest on my knee, the collection bag slowly filling up with blood. It was harrowing, but I knew I had to keep them alive. That was the agreement. He had made sure our blood was the same, that I could be responsible if something happened. Their eyes were a haze by the time I was done with their stitching. I was feeling woozy too, but I stayed alert. I shoved the needle into their arm next. It wasn't sterile, but it was good enough. Not like I had any germs after all. My blood slowly drained into them. Their eyes began to clear. They mumbled weakly. I smiled, slumping my head softly against their shoulder. Everything was okay. And now they had part of me inside them, and it would stay for a long while. I did something I feel a little bad about. I was reading up on hypnosis and got a little curious. The idea of getting them to do whatever I wanted. Well, maybe not whatever I wanted. They say you have to be okay with it deep down to get hypnotized. I thought it was worth a shot, though. I convinced them that anything that came from me would taste sweet. I just wanted them to taste my blood at first. The way they lapped it up. So hungry. So cute. It was like my blood was some kind of nectar. Keep thinking about that rule. The deep down they wanted it rule. I keep wondering, did they? Did they really want it? Did they really want me? Their ankle has been healing a lot since I hurt them. It's still broken, but they can put a little weight on it for me to walk them around. I decided to be nice today and had them lay their feet in my lap after their bath. I'd gotten a gift of colorful massage stuff that I hadn't used yet. I put pretty colors across their skin, rubbing it in thoroughly. I went from their toes to their ankles and was very gentle. Even when they winced and I wanted to make it worse, I held back. I lightly traced over each of their bones with my fingertips. They relaxed for the first time around me. When their eyes were closed, I wrote my name on the bottom of their foot in the lotion, then rubbed it in. Such a good bedtime routine. I got in trouble. Really in trouble. He found out that I used my gift on them, and he was very angry. He snatched me away from the basement and dragged me up the stairs. I wasn't supposed to be up there while they were around, but it wasn't my decision to make. I got tied up to a post as he yelled. He called me stupid, worthless, a dumbass who can't tell the difference between affection and manipulation. I started crying, and he grabbed my face, making fun of me for being so weak. There was a big steak lying on the table. He picked it up, shifting it in his hands, and watching me. He lunged towards me quick, stabbing it all the way through me and into the pole at my back. I couldn't help but scream. It made him laugh even more. When he was bored, he ripped me away from the pole, leaving a gaping hole through my body. I dropped down to my knees, gasping as he watched me for a moment before snapping his fingers, and everything was back in place. He told me to follow him to the bedroom. I crawled behind him, obedient. He said he would show me what real love was like, and locked the door behind us.